Hey guys, my name is Dorian Avila. I'm a logo designer and illustrator, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to do this logo right here. So let's get right into it. So I made this sketch of a mouse on Photoshop, and I just inserted it into Adobe Illustrator. So alright, let's get right into it. So first off, I start with the blob brush, and you can resize this with the brackets, and I usually start all of my illustrations with just the outline. So in this case, I'm just going to go around the illustration, in this case the sketch. And the great thing about the blob brush is that it kind of helps you guides you with shapes. So for example, if I do a little curve here, all kind of crooked, once I let go, the blob brush kind of fixes that kind of angle. And you can use this with a mouse or just a normal tablet. It doesn't have to be a tablet like this. This is just a preference, it's just a tool. But again, I'm just going around the illustration here and paying attention to the little curves. And another thing I do is I make sure that I make all of my designs and parts of the designs on different layers. So for instance, this is just the layer for the outline. And the reason for that is that if I ever want to go back and just make the outline a little thicker, I can select that layer and make tweaks on it, make it thicker without affecting the rest of the details on the design, like the hat or the dress, etc. Okay, I don't like the way that turned out. And I use Control-C a lot to do a lot of mistakes. Sometimes it takes a few attempts to get exactly what you want. It's important. Oh, it's just turning out really bad. Sometimes it helps if I make it a little faster. That'll work. And once again, it's really important to make a lot of changes to your design until you're happy with what you got. It helps having I don't like that foot. It helps a lot having a strong sketch to work with, because if you have a pretty rough sketch, it just makes things a little bit more difficult. And this is kind of a vintage style. It's supposed to have a lot of little mistakes in it. This isn't supposed to be perfect or anything. It's gonna have a lot of little mistakes in it. Got inspired by those old Winnie the Pooh illustrations from I think it's the early 19th century, before Disney bought them out. I used to make like little books, I think. Okay, so I'm done with the outline. I lock that and I start another layer, and I zoom in with Command. I think I just got a message that my battery is low, but we'll just work with it. So with the details, I make the strokes, the lines a little bit thinner than I would with the outline, just to give it less weight. It just makes the design pop a little bit. Okay. So right now I'm working on the hat. And I just take it by steps. I don't think about the whole design right off the bat, or make can start driving you a little bit nuts. So once again with the brackets, you can make the brush a little bit bigger. Make it really big strokes, or really small for finer strokes. And also with this pin, with the pressure, you can, depending on the pressure you put, you can make the lines a little bit thinner, and then transitioning into thicker. And that's the advantage of using a pin versus a mouse. But once again, it's just a tool. It's not going to make or break your designs. It's just a tool. Okay, so we're going to work on the little apron here. Close the gap right there. And I just finished all these little lines before adding any major detail. I know a lot of illustrators prefer to use the pin tool for a lot of these illustrations, but I love the plot brush. I just feel it's more flexible, in my opinion. Making it bigger. It's gonna be the eye right there. Make this a little bit smaller again. There we go. I'm gonna make the mouth right here. I think a little bit thicker than that. There you go. And then we got that. Now I start another layer. And this layer, I'm gonna add some weight to some of the lines that will represent some shadow. So we're just gonna invent a light source. It helps to know where your shadows are going to be. So we make another layer, and let's say our light source is the sun. Our light source is coming from this angle. So obviously most of our shadows are gonna be on the right side if the light source is coming from the left side. And just use a little common sense where your shadows would be under the little dress apron, more a little bit on the side of this arm. And it's really up to you how heavy you wanna add those shadows. And since this style is very flat, it doesn't need blending, it's just lines. Looking back here, I think I missed a line on the detail. So I'm going to unlock that layer on the neck and finish the shirt there. Okay, so go back to the other layer where we're going to add the shadows. Okay. I'm just picking the size of the pin. Again, you can use this with the brackets. I use this little device here to this remote, and I kind of put some keystroke shortcuts on it, and it's just easier because I can't really fit a keyboard right here. It would just be like I'd have to reach over under. I do have a keyboard under the desk. I installed this this little shelf thing, but I only use that really when I'm putting in text and whatnot. This is really helpful for just shortcuts. Okay, so again, keeping in mind there are light sources on the left side, we're going to add, this is a hat right here, we're going to add some shadow by making this line here a little thicker and then curving around. As you can see, you zoom out, you can already see that the eye kind of pops into that. We're gonna make another little line here on the hat, real thin and then really thick with pressure. If you're using a mouse, you just make a second line under that. It'll take a little bit more time, but it's very doable, so don't feel discouraged that you need to have this tablet, because this is just a tool. You can use an iPad as well, and then just insert it into Illustrator and vector it. Okay. You know what? We're gonna make just a little bit thicker lines here, even though the light is hitting it here. It'll make it separate. Oh, I don't like the way that turned out. Go right there. There you go. Now we're gonna add a little shadow right here on the neck by making this thicker, this line weight. We're gonna have some shadow right on this little suspender looking thing. Same thing with the sleeve right here. Chilling to take advantage of the fact that the line was up here. There you go. Same thing here. So basically we're going around the whole illustration and just adding a little weight, a little shadow in places where the design would have it. Probably around the apron as well. Right around the right side here. All the way down. There you go. We can zoom in with Command minus or plus. I put it on a shortcut over here on this remote. Okay, there we go. Gonna add a little shadow on. Keeping in mind, once again, the light source is up here in the top left. So in this little pocket right here, the shadow would be on this whole area, on this whole side. There, all the way up. There you go. I don't like the way that little imperfection kind of connected. Yeah. And it's supposed to have these little mistakes. I mean, it's not perfect, all symmetrical and stuff. It's like a little vintage, dirty little illustration logo thing. Okay, so another big line weight right under this to separate the little apron, this whole area from the little dress. Let's fix that little corner over here. I'm just going around the edge. There you go. Maybe add a little extra line. Same thing here. Just a little line weight. Okay. So we got that all settled. We're gonna lock the outline and everything we've done so far. So now we're gonna do a little crosshatch on this little illustration, and so the way we're gonna achieve that is by just doing one line. So we're gonna start with this hat, the top part. We're gonna do a little line right here where it starts thin and then gets a little thicker. And all right, so real thin and then thick. There you go. And we're just gonna grab that. Oh, didn't need to do that. I'm gonna grab that and move it with I believe it's the letter V, the selection tool. I have it on a key over here, so sometimes I forget. Okay, yeah, about there. Then we're gonna hold Option and drag that about that much, and then with Command D, it's gonna repeat that pattern. So then we grab that whole layer where we did all these little lines and just erase with the eraser tool. Leave Shift E. Just erase everything outside of the hat. Zoom in so we can see that. This is the big reason why we want to put our designs or part of our designs on different layers. That way when we erase just the layer, it only erases that specific layer. Now another option for deleting lines like this is with the shape builder tool with Shift M. And it's just preference, whatever you're quicker with or comfortable with. We lock that and start another layer once again. And we do kind of the same thing here where we do another little line for the hat, and this time vertical. That way all the lines aren't always going the same way. So we start out real thick, thin, and then thick again, and it curves. We're gonna grab, you know what? This is a little thick. Let's make these lines a little bit thinner. So same principle. Real thick, thin, and then thick again. And then again with Shift B. No, what am I talking about? Shift B. That's a blob brush. With the command, the option, forgive me, the option key, you hold it. So the option, if you have something selected and you hold option on your keyboard, and then you should get these double arrows right there. Let's see if I can zoom in. These double arrows, I don't know if that shows up on the camera. And that means you can pull something and then just let it go. Again with Command D, it repeats that last pattern. We select that whole layer. The great thing about having this pin is the other side functions as a eraser. You can map it to a lot of other stuff, but it's just common sense, you know, it just feels natural to use it as an eraser. And we just go all the way around. When I first got this, I was kind of worried of using this on the screen because it feels like I'm scratching it, but you're not. It's kind of meant for it. It came with the tablet. It's not a tablet, it's technically a drawing screen. I don't know the technical description for it. It's a Wacom Cintiq 22-inch. Okay, so now we're going to go into the face and kind of do the same principle with the little lines. And these lines are supposed to be like little details. I mean, they can represent shadow. So for example, as you can see, the lines here on the hat on the bottom, they start out thick and then thin and then thick again, because in a sense there's some sort of a shadow. So under the hat they'd be thicker, and then at the bottom of the hat, but right in the middle against our light source would kind of shine right there, so they're a little bit thinner. And we're gonna go to the face, make another layer again, and same principle. We're gonna go at a horizontal angle this time, not vertical. And we're just gonna have fun with this one. I think I want to get the shape of this right here and just maybe make the lines go down a little bit. So we start out thin and then just finish thick, maybe. Just have fun with the angle of it. And we grab that, we kind of fix it around to where we want it. Once again with the option, we drag it down. And then Command D. Zoom out a little bit, okay. And just rinse and repeat. We just kind of select the whole layer. Gonna make this eraser with the brackets a little bit bigger again. And honestly, this is really fun to use because you're just drawing. It reminds me of when I was in school, and even before that, just doing coloring books. Okay, that was letter V to select that whole thing, and I'm just gonna go to the edge. As you can see here, we're missing a little part of the lines. Let's just erase what we stretched out. All around. I think we're good. Now I would ask you guys not to judge this based on what you're seeing right now. It's better to judge it on the final result. That's a lot with the art in general. If you feel discouraged and you're not where you want to be, I'm not where I want to be. I'm still learning a lot. But if you feel discouraged that you're not where you want to be, don't judge your work based on like the first few lines or even the first 50% of the way. Just stick to it and just, you know, give yourself some constructive criticism for the final product. So now with the ears, I think I might go in a cross, I don't know what you call it, diagonal kind of area, kind of like this, to contrast the hat. I don't like the lines going all the same way. Otherwise, when you zoom out, they all kind of look like they're all going one direction. So start with this ear, maybe give it a little curve. And I don't think I'm gonna add any weight to these. You know what? I'm gonna add a little more curve to this. So Command Z, you can undo what your last thing was. So we start here, real thin. We'll grab that with the letter V. With the option, we drag it. Command D. We repeat that. And here's another little cool thing we can do. We can actually grab that whole layer, holding option under the layers and dragging it up, and it'll make a copy of that. And then with the letter V, drag that copy over here. Not hold, but touch one of these lines here with the letter V. And then with the option, drag it, and then again, Command D. It just makes life so easier. So much easier. I apologize if you hear a slight accent. English isn't my first language, so sometimes I get stuck in some words. I didn't really learn English until I was like 10 years old. So there's always gonna be like a little accent. Anyways, so we're erasing all of that. Oh, we missed inside of the face here. So little lines. You gotta really be careful that when doing this style, because you're gonna see as you're crossing lines, you're gonna get a little lost. If you're not paying attention, you're getting a little lost. There we go. Looking pretty awesome. Sometimes you just have to encourage yourself, because nobody else is gonna do it for you. And I try to lock all the that's just a joke. I try to lock all the previous layers I worked on, because, you know, I learned early on that if you don't lock your stuff, maybe just me, and you're like really into what you're doing, you can actually accidentally start working on another layer by accident. And yeah, that can get quite messy if you want to single out just the ears. So we're going to do these little lines on this part of the suspender on my left side here. And since it's just two, we don't have to duplicate that. Now we're going to do the lines for the dress here, which would be down here, here, and that. Go ahead and start with the top here. Make a thin line and then thick. Select it with V. Once again, option to drag it. And I'm gonna drag it right over here. And Command D. Oh, let's try that again. Drag that one. What happened was that it kind of was respecting the fact that I had moved it from here to here, so it was trying to do the same gap. It does literally the last thing you did. So Command D. And then from here, some more option again, Command D. Select that whole layer. Erase. Pretty sure that if there's any people that use Adobe Illustrator here watching this are getting frustrated because I don't use a tool builder with Shift M more often. I just find it a little bit more trouble than it's worth at times, especially since I lock all my layers to not write on them. It's just a personal preference, whatever you're faster with. Okay, so we're gonna do little lines here on the dress. Let's zoom into that. So we're gonna start out thick and then just thin. You know what? We might have to do them a little bit more vertical since we're gonna duplicate this, and if they're going all this way, by the time they get over here, they're just gonna go, you know, curving left, so we don't want that. So once again, thick and then just thin. Boom. So we grab that, move a little bit more. Holding Option once more. And then Command D. In a sense, it kind of draws itself. So we're gonna erase all that. There you go. Now with the little apron, we're gonna go with horizontal lines here. Remember, we always kind of just look at the previous pattern, and so in this case the pattern touching it is vertical, so we're going to go horizontal on this. And again, keeping in mind that our sun or light source is up there on the top left, or our shadows would be here, so we're going to start with thin and then thick. I don't like the way that came out. Start down here. Thin and thick. There you go. We have an Option, drag that a little bit. Command D until we get all the way to the top here. Let's undo that last one. And then just erase it. Again, it kind of reminds me of when you were little and you used to do a lot of coloring books. I was obsessed with coloring books as a kid. I remember I got in trouble once for my uncle was babysitting us, and I think he took us to a football game, and my mom had just bought us some coloring books. I must have been like 7. Some coloring books, and I really wanted to use those coloring books. They were new. So what I decided to do was to not tell my uncle that I was going to walk home and go color my new coloring books. I guess in the mind of a 7-year-old that was gonna work out. Nobody was gonna notice I was missing. Well, they noticed and I got a whooping. Obviously never did that again. But I've always loved drawing. Okay, so here we're gonna go same principle. We're gonna go the opposite direction, vertical, since these are horizontal. So we're gonna start out real thin and thick. There you go. And we're gonna give it a little extra spacing on that. Select that whole layer, erase it. There we go. So what I just did there after I got done erasing this, I hit the, what is this tool called? The selection tool. Okay, I should know that. The selection tool, the V, I hit the canvas, and the reason for that, let's say I'm selecting a layer. You see this box here? What 1, 2, 3, 4, like this box, basically highlighting the entire layer. Sometimes in order to unselect it, I just hit something else, preferably the canvas, otherwise I hit some other part of the design. Okay, now we're going to go with the arms here, and here I think I'm going to go with, what do we go with? Maybe some vertical little curves. I think that'll work. Let's try that. So we're gonna start out again real thin, then thick, and just move this down there. See how that works out. Kind of miscalculated that. See, we can fix that. Select the whole thing and just get the corner of this box and tilt it like so. Then move it around until this works out. Maybe stretch it out. Sure, I totally meant to do that. Okay, select that layer. There you go. Perfect. You know what I should have done? I can still do it, and I'll show you guys. I'm gonna Command Z and undo the erasing. I gotta stretch that out a little more. There you go. This last one's bothering me. Erase that. Okay, so same principle as before. We grab that whole layer, and here on the layers section, select that layer, hold Option, drag it up. It'll make a copy. With the letter V, the selection tool, drag that new copy, and with a mouse I right click, reflect vertical, and we can use that for the other arm. Let's move that to the center so you guys can see that. I think that'll work right there. Just a little bit more of a tweak. So let's select both layers by selecting one layer and then shift, zooming out, and then just erasing same little extra little things we have on the arm here, all around, just all around here. Don't forget the inside. Some little spots you can barely see over here. You know what? This is just 101 lessons, but we gotta save this. Okay. Yeah, it's happened once since I've used Illustrator where I've crashed it. But it happens, and so far I've never lost the work. That's why I usually make like 3 or 4 copies. I'm always saving, but since I'm recording this live, it's just harder to remember to constantly save with Command S. Okay, here we are going to see how we're gonna do this for the tail. Start out with a curve here, thin and then thick. See how that works out. Select that, drag it. Okay, so we're gonna copy this little shape here by selecting it, Option, Command D. Here's another little simple trick. Let's go back on this. We are going to stop here with Option, drag this, Command D that, and just tweak it as we go. And I'm just gonna leave it there. So we're gonna erase that layer all around like always. Yada yada yada. Okay, we're gonna zoom out and see the state of where we're at. Okay, there's a little spot right here. And then we're gonna, I said we're gonna, but we're going to do some lines under the legs here. Start with thin and just thick. I don't like that shape. Let's do the whole foot. So we start from over here and just like that. Down here, drag it. Command D. Select this, move it back a little bit maybe. A little more. Same principle. We copy that whole layer with Option. Right click on it. Move it over here. Select both layers. And then just erase to your heart's content. Go. All around. Now, I don't know if this looks kind of boring to you guys, but it's not. It's actually pretty fun. Even though I've done it hundreds of times. Oh, we missed a little spot. There we go. There we go. Let's zoom out here. Let's see our work here. Gonna shut down that sun over there. And we're gonna make another layer for more shadows because I can see, you know, before we do that, this is the power of layers once more. We can go back to our outline layer and we labeled it outline, selected, and we can add a stroke to it. So it's either here or here. There's two boxes. And the white one with the red little line through it means there's no color. So this one's the fill. Basically, if you draw a circle, I'll do one real quick. If you draw, let's use the pen tool over here. If you draw a circle, both boxes are white with the red line going through them. So that means it has no color, but you can see it's kind of giving you an indicator right there that there's something there. So let's say you want that brown. There you go. But with a stroke, let's say you want to add an outline, a stroke around this. That's a different color. You go to this other little box right here. It has like it looks more like a frame. You got a different color, and you can make it bigger by going to stroke over here. Tapping it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As you can see, you got yourself a shape. Some of you, if not most of you, probably know that already, but for those that don't, there you go. So we go to outline, we add a stroke. We're dragging that new color over here, that black. And we're gonna make this outline a little thicker. It just makes it pop a little bit. So you can turn that off. Select that again. You can turn that off. You can see the difference. There's that. You want it a little bit thicker though. It just makes the design pop a little bit, the little character. Okay, we lock that. We go back to up here to a new layer. We're gonna add some shadows, further shadows. So this is gonna be a pretty small little illustration, and it's just gonna be like for purpose of a mock-up logo with the words on the bottom and some pretty cursive. And as you shrink this, as you can see here, even on the screen, it's smaller versus this. A lot of detail is going to get lost. So it's important that we go in and add all the necessary shadow. Keep that in mind before we complete this. So that's why I made the stroke a little bit bigger, so it doesn't compete so much with the shadows we're about to put in. And if they do, we can just go make the stroke bigger again. And under the hat right here. And then let's separate this whole section, this whole face here. There you go. Put a little shadow under the hat here, thinner at the front because of the so-called light source. Let's make this mouth a little bit bigger. And there you go. Might add some whiskers after we're done here. I don't want to add them yet because we got all this line stuff going on. It'll just get lost. So right here, a little shadow under that little suspender looking thing for the apron. Let's close the gap here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Same thing here. Just take some liberty with that. Let's make this a little thicker too, not as thick as this one. Same thing over here. There you go. And let's make this brush a little bit bigger too. Take some liberty with the bottom of that. Just close the little gap here. And let's make this super thick over here, all the way around, and start making it thinner with less pressure. There you go. Same thing under here. Same thing over here on the tail. And let's zoom in and see how it starts popping right there. Okay, we lock that. So now we're going to get our lines here, our little curves, our little crosshatch we did. It's not really traditional crosshatching. It's kind of my own style. But we're going to unlock all these little things. I should have put them in a layer all by themselves earlier. Okay, that's shadows. We're gonna grab all those with shift, put them in this new layer so they're being stubborn. There you go. Drop them in there. As you can see, we can see that on and off. And the reason for this is so that we can go back, select all that. Zoom in here, and we're going to erase some of this to represent some sort of kind of a highlight. Let's make this a little bit, the eraser a little bit bigger, and just around here. There you go. Let me show you what that looks like. See how it kind of looks like some sort of a highlight. We can do that all around. Do the same thing here. There you go. Same thing here on the face and right there. Let's do around the eye a little bit, so we can kind of see the eye a little bit. Let's do a little bit on this ear as well. Maybe not as much. Oh, I don't like the way that turned out. Let's try that again. I love Command Z. Okay. On the arm, same thing here. There you go. Let's do a little bit on the apron. Remember, the light is bouncing off here. Get a little smaller there. All the way down. Now, if you're using a tablet or an iPad, it's important to use your wrist and your elbow to make curves versus just freehanding it. You know, your body's almost a machine, so use it to your advantage. So for example here, I'm putting all my weight on my wrist here, and I'm working with the wrist, not with my fingers. That way you get these curves that look a little bit cleaner. We're going to be careful here. We're going to erase around the bag on the top. Here I'm not sure where to put them. Maybe at the edge. Maybe starting here and then just going up. Okay. So now we're going to the feet. And we're gonna start a little highlight right there. Maybe a little one from the middle here. Oh, that wasn't enough. There you go. Not happy with that. I think we can be happy with this. There you go. And believe it or not, I think I'm going to make the outline even a little bit thicker and add a little more shadow right before we're done with this, and adding just a little bit of a color to this. Okay, so again, let's go with the outline once more. Let's look at what we got there. Yeah, I'm digging it. Lock that. And let's make another new layer for shadows. And the reason I'm not working on the same layer for shadows is because I might change my mind and keep one of the layers of the shadows and not the other. And that's why it's important to give yourself all this room to succeed. Okay, so there you go with that. Basically just the same spots. Just the same spots. Just make them a little bit more prominent, more obvious. There we go. There you go. You know what? We haven't been adding shadows to the apron here. It's a big shadow. A little bit here. There we go. Maybe this bag is opened a little bit so it would have a shadow there. There we go. Make it maybe a little thicker at the end over here. That. There you go. And I think that should work. Okay, so we're going to unlock all of this we just worked on. Here's another little trick. Since I selected the whole layer, and I want to change it one color, but there's a stroke on one of these layers, aka the outline. One way to make the outline permanent, to make it part of the fill, is to go to Object, Path, and Outline Stroke. And now it's all one object. You can all merge this into one thing by going to Pathfinder, selecting your objects, and then hitting this right here, the merge. It'll make everything into one thing. So what we're going to do here is we're gonna make this little guy, oh, it's a little girl. This little girl into a chrome color. So we go to here to Gradient, and as you can see that, I'll show you guys how to fix them in just a sec. I keep messing up. I was touching this when I should have been touching over here, a gradient. And there's going to be two little spheres here. And I already have pre-selected colors. So this little light gold and this really dark kind of gold brown. Now this doesn't look very appeasing, so what we do is we highlight that with the letter G on my keyboard. We can start on one side and drag. You can't see it from here, but it unifies the gradient into that right there. And I have a filter ready, like a texture. Oh. Okay, I messed something up right there. I have a filter over here for kind of a paper texture. Gonna hit multiply on that. And it'll add a little texture to the design. I'm just gonna lock that so I don't accidentally touch it. Okay, and now I'm gonna zoom out. I'm gonna shrink this a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and shrink this design here. By holding shift. And we have a grid here that we can use to center things. Sometimes I don't like automatically centering things because Adobe Illustrator's version of centering stuff on an illustration is not my version of it. So now we go to text, the letter T, and then we're gonna type in some name here. Okay. Going to make that bigger. I'm gonna go up here to paragraph and align to center. Make that pretty big. Pick a different font. I think I accidentally made that all caps, so we are going to turn off the caps. There you go. Make that a little bit bigger. So when you're making stuff bigger or smaller, if you hold shift, it'll keep the dimensions, but if you let go and you can warp it, most likely by accident. And then we're gonna add a subtext to this. Okay. We're just gonna shrink that over here. Oh, wrong font. Let's try that again. We're using a different typeface for this. And give it a little bit of spacing on that. Under character, you can usually find that on the window if you don't have it, but you should have it on your interface on Adobe Illustrator. You can change the tracking, the space between each letter. Okay. Now from here, I'm gonna add the same kind of chrome effect. It won't respect it if you just try to apply it, so you have to go to Appearance, hit this little square here, add new fill. Once you do that, you can go back to Chrome, and with the letter G, it's kind of already set there to the same highlight shadow difference, which is pretty cool. So we're gonna grab both the logo and the text and center that. I think somewhere there is fine. And there you have it. Simple, cute little illustration logo that's not a big headache, but it shows you the principles of this kind of style of cross-hatching scratchboard / vintage. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I answer all the comments, or you can message me on Instagram at Dorian_twice Avila. You guys have a great day, have a good one, and peace out.